Good morning, everyone. It's Velvet on Silver, and I'm Wednesday. And it's an amazing day. The sun is shining, and the Schumann resonance is increasing, which shows us that the human collective is actually doing our healing work. So today I'm going to bring on my guest, and I met her in Panoka when I spoke at Dalen's Empowered Women Conference last year, actually. And she is also a light worker and does healing work. So I'm waiting for Brenda Massing to join. And when she joins me on here, I'm going to be talking to her about what exactly do we think the world needs to hear today? You know, what messages do we need to share? So as she makes her way on here, which is always fun to try and bring people on, I'm going to continue chatting with all of you. So many people have been saying, you know, what exactly does it mean that the Schumann resonance is at 190? What is the Schumann resonance anyway, by the way? So the Schumann resonance is something that NASA actually uses, and it is a scientific reading of the Earth's vibration. And for those of us that are doing the healing work, we look at the Schumann resonance as, you know, if it's high, many times it will help support your physical body. You will feel like you have more energy. When we're having a lot of solar flares, you're going to feel tired. It's sort of supporting, you know, the people that are living on the planet in a vibrational frequency. So it's good because it's showing that things are shifting and we're moving through some of the shadow work that we've been doing, which many of us have been doing, which isn't always easy, right? It's about looking at yourself and trying to figure out how you are going to move through, you know, fears and anxieties and things like that that are coming up for you. Like, what tools do you use to move through those things? Okay, I'm just seeing. Okay, Brenda, there should be a little thing at the bottom of your phone that says that you can join the live. I sent you a request. It's already been sent. So if you can just find that and make your way on there, I will wait for you to join me here. So the reason that we wanted to do this conversation is I always follow my heart and who my guests are, right? There's a few guests that I'm working on, and I'll be bringing them on over the next couple of weeks to share different aspects and their stories and the wisdom that they have learned in their life that can help each and every one of us move forward. Okay, we're still trying to bring her on here. I am just going to see what I can do here. Okay. So my feed seems to be a little bit slow here, so it's going to take just a minute to bring her on. I don't know why it's been doing that lately. The other thing that I wanted to share with many of you is that what many of us are seeing too in the shadow work is things are a full circle. So what I mean by that is you may be having the same connection with the same person, but you may be seeing that in a different view. Okay, here is Brenda here. So I'm just going to bring her on. Okay, Brenda, I'm just adding you right now, bringing you on. There you are. Good morning.
Hey, there we go.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you.
Good.
Happy solstice.
Same to you. Did you get up with the sun this morning?
I did pretty much every morning with menopause. Right?
No kidding.
Right? So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody who's watching and listening? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you live, and what you do.
Okay. So my name is Brenda Massing. I'm the owner of Wellnest Coaching. So like wellness, only nest, because it's a safe place for people to come, for people to be heard, for people to be accepted and validated, and a place where you can come and know that there's always a space for you. So my business is, I'm a personal coach. I work personal development, mindset coaching. I help mostly women, but some men, work through the areas in their life where they're having trouble moving forward, and or just rising to the next occasion, figuring out, like, I know where I want to go, I just don't know how to get there. And the cool thing is, like, I don't refer to myself as a healer at all. I believe that we have the ability to heal inside of each one of us. And the gift that I've been given is to help people access that inside of themselves. So that's what I do now. I've lived in the Ponoka area for all of my adult life. I was a school teacher and an administrator, a district leader in different capacities, and led a ton of workshops. And I appreciate the connection with people in my small circle, people in my rural community, and people that are brought into my life by the universe for a specific reason. I just love digging in and getting to know people, and figuring out, like, what brought us together, and what's the magic that we can create together. I live on a farm. I've got a couple of daughters. One of them is very blessed to be with child right now. So she'll have her baby in August. And the other daughter is back in university, and just a beautiful, energetic, bubbly, incredible human being as well. So yeah, live with my husband, Rick, and love our life.
That's that's beautiful. And I love what you said, that you help people move through the problem or an obstacle that they have, because that's what I feel like is so key right now and so important. So thank you. I am honored to have you here and to be sharing, this day, especially with you. So it's time to deep dive. So the reason that I started doing Wisdom Weaver was to share, to be in flow, right? Yes, I have questions, but I really wanted to be in flow. And you and I had talked about, what is the message that we want the world to hear today? And, we've been looking at the Schumann resonance, which is, increased, and we're feeling it inside ourselves, and understanding that the work that we've been doing is now showing up, tenfold. And I want to ask you, what message do you want to give to everybody today on summer solstice that you feel would benefit them in moving forward?
Okay. When I was thinking about this, I think my original thought was, what is it that people need to hear? And my immediate response was, I don't think we need to hear anything. I think we hear so much stuff all the time. We hear it on social media. We hear it in the news. There's so much chatter and so much noise that we don't need to hear anything else. What we need to do, and I think the message that can benefit all of us, is we need to stop hearing and start listening. I think that if we listened just 1% better today than we did yesterday to our body, that we would treat our body 1% kinder. We would give it 1% better nutrition. We would give it 1% more oxygen. We would do 1% more activity. I think if we listened to our heart, that we would give ourselves 1% more compassion. We would give others 1% more compassion. I think if we listen to our mind and listen to our higher self, that we would have all of the guidance that we need. And we would find ways, the ways would come to us so that that chatter, we would know when to put on those headphones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to know when it's just chatter or when it's something that I need to listen to and not just hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with that, then I have to tell you what happened.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about that, and I'm driving into our space this morning, and all of a sudden, I was thinking about Stonehenge and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about summer solstice and thinking about the celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And the song that came to me was Lord of the Dance. And so you know the song, the Michael Flatley
Mm-hmm.
song, and at the very beginning, it's like an om at the very beginning, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
om, and it's just this. I just imagined all these people coming in a togetherness, but coming all with the same purpose. And although there's talking, there's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just imagine that all of those people, as they're approaching, they've just got so much hope and so much appreciation for what the sun has brought to this point. And they're coming to celebrate, and it's a beautiful big festival. And as they get closer and closer, then if you remember in the song, this little flute clicks in, and it sounds like the sunrise. It sounds like, on the Friendly Giant, and he plays that early one
Mm-hmm.
morning. It sounds
Yeah.
like that, and it's like, oh, here comes the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right there, and they get to touch the stones. And then kaboom, it's like a big storm, and here comes the sun full of power. And it went all the way through me today, and I just want to share that with you today, because I think that when we allow ourselves to listen and to access those energies that are coming from everywhere to us, that it brings us into a higher space, into a, a, a higher vibration. It gives us the ability to be the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, and thank you for saying this. This is the card that I drew for my group. That's why I'm smiling, because it's stillness, it's listening to yourself, being within. And so that's the message that I was getting too, Brenda, is that we need to tune inside more than we need to turn outside. And that is the time is to do that now, right? And to feel the sun codes, to feel that medicine and to absorb it and allow nature to support us in the listening. So, what are some tools that you could share with people as to how can they tune into themselves easier? If someone has no idea how to tune inside, what are some ways that you would give them to do that?
I think one of the first ways, one of the easiest ways is really just to get in touch with your heart, right? So, and the easiest way to do that is, can you feel your heart beat? And so, just with your hands on your chest. And I think lots of people don't, we all have different perceptions of what meditation is. And it's this label that's given to a lot of different practices right now. So I don't even know if I meditate anymore. I don't know that I do. I have my version. Excuse me. But I think one of the easiest ways is just right here, and just to really, with your feet on the floor, and just, my first question would be, can you feel your feet? Get your hand on your chest if that's good for you. And can you feel your feet? And just pay attention to what's the sensations that are in your body, and what can you feel. And as you get in tune with that, then, okay, now every time you breathe, I just want you to imagine your heart. Imagine your heart, and in whatever vision you have of heart, and what's happening to it as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And just move through a sequence of that, where every time you breathe and breathe a little bit deeper, that you are filling your heart full of one of the heart emotions. Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's love, right? So whatever it is that you want to concentrate on, and think of a time, think of a place, think of a person, think of an animal that gives you that, and then begin to let that multiply and just feel what that feels like in your heart. So yeah, and then you can move forward with that, right? Like you can fill your whole body with that. You can breathe it out into the world. You can do it for a short time, you know, with all of the bits of anxiety, and again, another label, that people are experiencing, to let that be normal and to go, okay, oh yeah, my body is freaking out a little bit right now. Just, you know, feet on the floor, hands on the heart, just one time, just, and let yourself come back into regulation. So it doesn't have to be a big spiritual voyage. It can just be almost a scientific, psychological, let's get this body back into regulation. And so I think that's one of the greatest tools. And then the other thing, and I think the first step for all of us, is to really find awareness wherever we need it, right? So if it's about the chatter and about negativity, say, then just to become aware and pay attention to the words and the experiences that you're allowing into your body, whether it's what you're reading, what you're viewing, your experiences in day-to-day life. Become aware of it, and then decide, what do you want to do with that, and how much are you letting that absorb into your body. And you know, then the next step would be, you know, some tools to protect yourself and create that protective energy that we all can create, so that those things are not permeating into our soul, right? And using this house to protect that soul. So those are a few of my ideas off the top of my head.
And I think I love how you explained that, because so many people will say to me, I'm like, do you know how to meditate? They're like, I don't know how to meditate. And they're just overwhelmed with the thought. And I'm like, it's just breathing, just breathe, you know, and connect with your heart. Just listen to your body, because when we become with anxiety or, you know, fight or flight, any of those things, it's like we disconnect from the body, and we just need those simple tools in that moment to bring us back into the body and to connect. And I've used all the tools that you've talked about many times, and it's simple. We need to keep life simple, right? Really.
Yeah. And it really is. So you and I have talked a little bit before about scuba diving. And I think that, you know, if you think about when you're first going to descend in the water, and you think about people that can't swim, or people that have never been able to breathe underwater, I think that's believing that you've got the apparatus, you can breathe actually, but you don't think you can. And so I don't think I can meditate. I don't know how to do that. And then Velvedon says, well, just breathe. And truly, it's that simple. It's not, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. And it's a relying on your body and a trust that you can. And so while I'm above the water, it's like, oh, this regulator works. Awesome. Can I breathe out? Yeah, I can. Okay, what happens if I come into the water just here? Okay, I'm not breathing water. I'm getting air, right?
Yeah.
And then as we go in, I think for me, that's the most beautiful meditation, is when you can get underneath of the surface. And so if we use that as a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor, I got to get past all the chatter and the makeup and the clothes and the everything and go beneath the
Mm-hmm.
surface and just breathe
Mm-hmm.
and no agenda, right? Because you never
Mm-hmm.
know what you're going to see when you're under the water. Meditation is no
Yep.
agenda. Let it happen.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you're saying too is I always say that being under the water is another whole level of vision, right? Like you see things because you've trusted to descend underneath a fear, right? So,
Yeah.
right, when you think about that in life, it's like whether you're ascending or descending through the fear, you're going to see a gift that is something you've not seen because you've worked through that level of internal energy that is trying to keep you small and hold you back from experiencing that expansion.
Agreed. And when you go under like that, you
Mm-hmm.
also, my eyes, they're like they are right now, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
you're looking everywhere, but you're so open, and it's not just your eyes that are open, it's your heart that's
Mm-hmm.
open. It's a receiving. It's like, oh, what might be here?
Mm-hmm.
And you have little hopes, right? Like maybe I'll get to see a turtle or whatever your coolio thing is. Um, but when you can go in and just be so wide open to receiving,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when the cool stuff comes. And
Exactly.
that's the meditation. Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
know. And that's what I mean. Even, scuba diving or snorkeling is a meditation, right?
Yeah.
It's the old label where meditation is sitting there holding your hands in a certain mudra, in the lotus position on a cushion to be meditating. And that is not at all what it means to connect inside yourself. So thank you for sharing that visual. Hmm.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Hmm. So the other thing that I want to talk about is wisdom, right? Which is so important. What is your perception on the wisdom that you've gained in your life, like the trials and the tribulations? How do you use that wisdom from those experiences that have been difficult for you moving forward in life?
Good question. First of all, I think we all have wisdom.
Hmm.
We all have so much. And I think sometimes it's a perspective,
Hmm.
right? Um, and so I think the way that I've used my wisdom as, so I was a school teacher for my last life. I was
Yeah.
a school teacher.
Yeah.
And so how I used it there was um, to be able to connect and to be
Hmm.
able to relate to whoever I'm talking to
Hmm.
and to not be like as a teacher, you can choose to be the sage on the stage and deliver, here is the holy grail of grade 5 math.
Yeah.
Um, or here is, here's Shakespeare and this is exactly what it means. And I never was very good at that because I don't see myself as a keeper of the knowledge that needs
Hmm.
to be shared. So it's not wisdom in that respect. I think what it is for me, all of those lessons, and I can see, not always right away, and sometimes many, many years later, it's like, oh, that's what I learned, or
Hmm.
that's now this is serving me, right? And so I think it gives us, when we access that wisdom, it gives us the ability to connect, to have empathy, and to be able to truly understand what other people are going through, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender, their situation, their space in life. Doesn't matter, right? There's a piece of what they're saying that I can relate to, and I think that's how I use my wisdom.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that because I find, the older that I get, the more experiences that I've had, but it gives you that lens and the heart of compassion. It's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. I know where you are, I see you, right? And you can just hold that
Yeah.
space, for that person. Whereas sometimes when you're younger, you're not even aware of how to hold space or what space may be, right?
Yeah.
So, mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think without those tough experiences, that's where you learn how to hold space,
Mhm,
right? You know,
yeah.
when your daughter says, "Yeah, I have a friend that's grieving, Mom. What do I do?"
Mhm,
Um, and if I say to her, you know, you just need to be there. You just need to
mhm,
listen.
mhm,
You don't have to share
mhm,
words. You just need to be in that space with her.
mhm,
And
mhm,
you know, so the response might be, "I don't know how to do that." And be like, "Yes, you do.
mhm,
Just trust that you do,
mhm,
and just do it, and you can, right?"
mhm.
And so then she takes that experience, shares it there. She's going to share that with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty in coaching as well, is that it's the gift that keeps on giving,
Mhm,
right? So when people figure something out after working with me, they're like, "Oh man, I think I knew that all along. I think
mhm,
I can share that with somebody else, or I can use this in my conversations with my kids."
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. That's what I mean. The wisdom just weaves its way, right? Through the people, through the touch, through every sense of who we are. And that's the beautiful thing of life, right?
mm-hmm.
So share with, there's one question here. It keeps drawing out to me, and I want to ask it to you because you have a really expanded perception of things. So what is one of the best things that's ever happened to you?
Like no warning. I get no warning on a question like this.
Right? We're in flow.
Okay. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I need a drink of water. I'm thinking, what is one of the best things
Yeah.
that's ever happened to me?
Something that's had a long lasting effect, right? On who you are today.
I'm going to say my children.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. Getting chosen to be their
Mm-hmm.
mom, I think, is one of the best and the most serving that I've been able to do, and the most lessons that I've received, um, and really like in filling the purpose of being a mom, um, the most wisdom probably that I've received, and the most reason, right? The
Mm-hmm.
reason that I want to be a better human, the reason that I want to give back to the world, right? It
Mm-hmm.
came from getting to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that because it's comes without a handbook. It comes without prior experience the first time, especially, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I do this? This is new, everything's changing. The body changes, your life around you changes. There you are with another living being. And now, here you are having grandbabies, right? Like that's
Yeah.
exciting. Mm,
Totally. Well, and all the way through, I didn't have a great relationship with my
mm,
mom, and so that it was imperative to me that I figure out a way to have
mm-hmm.
a great relationship with each of my children.
Yeah.
And so that took me into, what are old patterns, and how do I meet those old patterns? How do I move into um, a new me
Mm-hmm.
that serves this whole
Mm-hmm.
family? And so all of those lessons then led me down this incredible path of learning, and really caused that deep dive into coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so now I can use all of that wisdom to help guide others, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what's the pattern? What happened to you when you were a little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got little girls. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want their experience? How can I influence their experience to be positive and meaningful and spiritual and all of the good things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
You,
Like it
yes.
just, yeah.
Yes, I mean, yes, yes. You just answered one of the questions I was going to ask you is, I don't believe everybody's life is perfect. Everyone goes through life with challenges. And I love what you have said. I think many of us that are in this work where we're wanting to teach people how to look within themselves is we've come from a background of, okay, empowerment. I'm going to change my future. I'm going to change the way I parent. I'm going to change the way I connect to people. I'm going to change the way I look at myself. And it all begins with self. And, the fact that you're like, I didn't have a great relationship with my mom and I want to change that with my girls, I can say the same for myself, right? That's how I've come into the empowerment of girls and women is because you want to make a difference. You recognize that the pattern is not working. So what are some things that people that are listening, because I know they're like, okay, this is a good tidbit. What tools can they use to begin to shift those patterns that are negative that maybe they want to shift for their children?
I think one of the things that we do is we can come from a place of blame. And right, like the
Mm-hmm.
reason I turned out this way is because, right? And it's a very
Mm-hmm.
fixed mindset to be in. Or, and even if it's as simple as I'm no good at math because my mom was no good at math, any of those kind of things. So to really um, find like, what is it that you believe?
Mm-hmm.
And then what would happen if you didn't believe that?
Yep.
And, can you just, wave a magic wand and imagine what would it be like? What would you be if you didn't believe that?
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't believe that this cycle was going to repeat itself?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good question to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another way is to, I love perspectives. I think perspective might be one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
words because there's a different way to look at that relationship. What if you could see your mom uh, or whoever the other person is through their lens?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I had that conversation with her. I'm like, okay, I see this beautiful woman that is, living in the city and all of these, your life is just glorious. And then through a sequence of events, you find yourself all of a sudden married and having a baby that maybe you didn't plan for.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about that? And how did you process that? And how hard was that when you were in a community where nobody spoke the language that you spoke?
Mm-hmm.
How alone were you?
Mm-hmm.
And then when my dad would come home, um, and I was his whole world, how did that make her feel when she was no longer the number one, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
finding that perspective, then when we're curious about what was that like for you, then we can see the whole thing with a compassion.
Mm-hmm.
That leads us to a forgiveness of ourselves and of our moms, and then we can all move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so we use it as a tool for understanding, because when we know better, we do better. And for me, that was the way I could do better, was figuring out a way to know more,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite question is why,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like help me to understand this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is also why the analogy of diving deep, right? You're not afraid to dive deep. And you're like, let's get underneath this, which is my jam too. It's like, let's just not sit on the surface and just cope or just settle for what is on the surface when we know that, I love what you said about your perception of, looking through another person's lens and really dissolving the projection, because when you dissolve the projection and you take accountability and maybe that relationship isn't something that is something you want to continue with, you know, in the future. And that's okay too, right?
Totally,
Mm-hmm.
totally. Yeah.
It,
And you have to do what's best for you, right?
mm-hmm.
But when you can leave whatever relationship that is or move forward into a different phase of that
Yeah.
relationship or a different status in that relationship, if you can do that with understanding and with grace, grace for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
grace for the other person in the relationship, then you can move forward, right? Like you can pull away those cords if they no longer serve you, but you can pull them away.
Mm-hmm.
You can gently release them rather than, you know, hacking them with a knife and letting them bleed out,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So I think just and then you can heal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think while we still have that resentment, while we still have that blame, while we still have whatever you want to call that ickiness inside of those memories, when we still get that gut, ugh, this is not good, then we know we haven't healed.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's something that we got to go back and look at again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if it comes up over and over and over again, right?
Exactly.
You don't have to be right. You don't have to be in the best place. You just have to accept it and go through it. It's part of the journey. There's going to be potholes.
Mm-hmm. So very good point there, because you're right. We circle back around and around and around, and then it could be the 10th time around. You're like, I got it. You see it through a different lens.
Yeah.
And how do you know in that moment when you talked about that icky feeling inside and you're like, no, I still haven't got the lesson? How do you know? What does it feel like inside when you've got the lesson?
For me, the
Mm-hmm.
ick goes away,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's when you can feel only love-based emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't go into um, those bad feelings, right? Those childhood feelings, whatever they are, or if they arise and you go, oh, I don't think I have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that,
Mm-hmm.
but now that I check in, and so again, that inward
Yeah.
awareness, right? When I check in, I don't think it's there. The ego might be trying to tell me that it's still there, but if I listen to my higher self, it's like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
you're good.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, in the instance of some for people that experience tears,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or just get overcome with emotion through grief is where I want to go. When you can talk about that time or that place or that
Mm-hmm.
person, and you can do it without the tears, without the big emotion, then you know
Mm-hmm.
I'm healed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And grief is, you know, it's like this. It's like the waves in the ocean, right? One day you're on the top and next you're at the bottom, and that's okay because it's all a part of the process. Nothing is linear, right? Like it's
Yeah.
truly mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we talk about grief for a second?
Yes, please.
Okay. And I don't want to talk about grief as being somebody died
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in
Mm-hmm.
grief. I want to talk about grief as, and I'm interested in your perception too,
Mm-hmm.
um, just grief for and recognizing grief for all of the things and anything from uh, the life that I thought I was going to have that I'm never going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Grief for the job that I got fired
Mm-hmm.
from, or the position that I never acquired,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or grief for the relationship
Mm-hmm.
that never came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
and I think if we, or during COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, we are grieving. We
Yes.
are all grieving. We're grieving the connection that we crave
Mm-hmm.
so much. And to give ourselves permission to just feel that and to understand that's what that is. It's a loss of a sort, right? If your house burned
Mm-hmm.
down, if whatever the thing is, that it's okay and it's perfectly um, wonderful to allow yourself to just recognize it and let it come and go,
Mm-hmm.
and you know let it go when it's ready, instead of having this hanging on to, that is again maybe full of resentment, full of um, icky feelings, right? Because it's like, you know what, that would have changed everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If he wouldn't have, if she wouldn't have, or worse, if I wouldn't have, if I could have, and you hang on to that, and you have that blame
Mm-hmm.
and the guilt and the shame, man, if you just allow the grief,
Mm-hmm.
then you can move forward.
Mm-hmm. And grief is a passion of mine too. I studied that grief chart forever, when I was going
Yeah.
through my divorce. And I remember I took this spiritual divorce course, and I remember Howard Parsons was teaching it. And he said to me, some days you're going to be in the ditch, right? You're going to be down in the ditch and you're going to be looking back. Should I go back? I'm scared to go forward, or I have nothing left. So I'm just going to lay here in the ditch. And the way he explained your feelings, right, about that, or when you see your ex for the first time with someone new, you get that wet sock feeling in your stomach. And I thought,
Yes.
I love the descriptions that he used. And I always kept those in moving through my divorce. Even in losing someone, or in relationships or jobs, or just the loss of the dream, right?
Yes.
It's not a clear cut little package. Grief is messy. And being able to express your grief, moving it out of your body, through sharing, is so important, and to be able to talk about it, um, and to be supported. And like you said, at the end, when you finally have that acceptance through that whole messy cycle, you're one amazing person when you make it through it. The wisdom that you have, the strength that you have to move through it. It's a gift. Grief is such a gift, but I find that so many times people lift up the carpet and they sweep it under the carpet because they don't want to deal with the pain. It hurts too much. When I was just at my youngest daughter's grad in Olds, and the valedictorian said, we need to be like the buffalo and walk directly into the pain, into the storm, right? Whereas cows run the other way from the storm, they avoid it. And I was like, that is such a powerful metaphor that I've been
It
thinking
is.
about, is that we need to walk directly into the pain, into that, to feel it and support ourselves around with the support we need, but also the self-reflection internally.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and when we can find a community to
Mm-hmm.
do that with, I think that's, we're really feeling, and I don't know if you're seeing it too, but women are more and more receptive to a circle of women where we
Mm-hmm.
can come together, hold space for one another, and you can feel that energy of acceptance for wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And our friend Dalen just put together a beautiful, it was supposed to be a book study. And we did It's Not Your Money by Tasha
Mm-hmm.
Silver.
Yes.
Ah, and there were 6 of us,
Mm-hmm.
all with completely different gunk, all with completely different goals and dreams and spaces in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And just having that community and feeling that permission to share
Mm-hmm.
brought so much peace and wisdom
Mm-hmm.
to the room. And as each person shared, we all were collectively in it
Mm-hmm.
with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the whole book is about abundance. And we went in there thinking it was about money. Of course, it wasn't about
No.
money. and the abundance of love, the abundance of support was just overwhelming inside of that group.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just brilliant the way
Mm-hmm.
it all came together. And I think that there's lots of women are talking about tribes. You're in my tribe.
Yep.
And I think that's the same sort of idea. So again, like
Mm-hmm.
whether it's your book club or your tribe, it's not necessarily your best friends. In fact, I would bet that it's not your best friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Exactly. Yeah.
that's a different relationship, and you get to be you on a whole different level when you're with people that are like-minded, because
Mm-hmm.
you're all together for whatever given purpose. And when that sharing begins, it is one of the most powerful,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
most powerful. And so, similar to like group counseling with grief,
Mm-hmm.
it's group sharing,
Mm-hmm.
it's collective support.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the wisdom that we get from that and the healing that we can receive from that is amazing.
And I think that's the greatest, it's one of the greatest, when you can get to the point in your life that you want to sit and you want to listen through the lens and see through the lens of other people. To me, that is such the richness of life. That is where it's the cultivation of connection right there in that moment. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'd be interested to know what you think it took you to get to that point where you could do that.
I think it was the previous experiences of being humbled, right? In life. So whether it was the divorce, the loss of a dream, health issues, changing careers, right? Just really being rawly humbled and being in positions where you had yourself to
Mm-hmm.
look within. It's when you do that deep inner work through conscious choice or not, but it gives you that space to recognize where the true treasures are in life rather than the old ways of projection and disconnection. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
And
I
you?
love that. I think it was truly the need to know
Mm-hmm.
why, right? Like help me to
Yeah,
understand, um, and knowing that or recognizing that, hey, neither one of us needs to be right.
right.
There's no one way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's divine acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
right, of where everybody is at, and where people can only believe what they can believe and what they're ready to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same.
Mm-hmm.
So and even though I may not get all of what you're telling me, I still can accept it as your version of what is real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about one of the areas that I really am interested in a lot, because of personal experience and just collectively, is trauma
Mm-hmm.
and trauma response. And when you read about trauma, or when you talk about the same experience that people have had uh, at the same event,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's experience is different. Everybody was there, everybody lived the same event, but they all internalized it differently.
Mm-hmm.
They all are affected by it differently, or not affected by it very much at all. And none of those is incorrect, none of those is inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they are at and what they internalized.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take that back to everyday life, it's the same. So if you and I are sitting at the same traffic light, your perception of that and my perception of that are different. I think it's like hearing and listening. It's seeing and perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think once you don't need to be right, and you really understand a closed mindset from an open mindset,
Yes.
then it's like, oh wow, this is so cool.
And that is such a good point, right? An open mindset and a closed mindset. What does it take to, because we were all raised in different
Mm.
homes as children where there was either an open mindset or a very closed mindset. And if it was closed, how did that evolve as an adult if you have an open mind, right? And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So have you read Limitless by Jim Quick?
No.
Okay, put it on your list.
Okay.
It's such a cool book. And so the way he describes limitless is not limitless like a superhero kind of limitless, but um, limitless is the ability to believe that you can believe something that you don't currently believe.
That's good.
The ability to believe that you could believe something that you don't currently believe. And so it really is totally a growth mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we hear ourselves say something like, I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. I can't be a runner. Runners, my mom wasn't a runner. Running's not in our family, right? Such a closed mindset. And just, it's a belief. Well, what would happen if you believed that you could believe that you could be a runner? Well, I would never do that. But what if you could? What would change? Right? And so if you chose to, could you run? If you believe that, then you could. So that was mine. I just believed that was a hard no for me. I'm not a runner. I can't run. I think that I would lay down. I would die
Right.
if I did that. Until I ran a half marathon. And it was like, oh my God, I think I'm a runner. Right? And at what point do you believe that you can believe that you can? And it doesn't matter what it is. If you just project yourself forward.
Exactly. And you just start doing those steps. It's action too. And you get out of the mind and you just start moving your body, whether you're running or paddling or diving, all of those things. When you start taking the action and you build up upon those experiences, before you know it, you're like, I'm a diver, I'm a runner, I'm a writer, I'm an author, right?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
And so do you think that you have to do it before you can believe it, or can you believe it before you do it?
I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's the 1%, right?
Yeah.
So if I believe 1% more, then I can do 1% more. And then maybe I don't know, one day have to run to catch a bus and, oh my God, I ran like 5 blocks. Whew. So maybe that's like 3%.
Yeah.
And now I can believe 3% more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's one of those things with the mind connected to the heart, which is important to have that union, right? So that it's just a solid connection that you can move through life in alignment, right? And I think that's kind of what we're unwinding in this old paradigm, is to be in union is within, and it's less projection, more internalization, right?
Yeah. And I think it's a pleasure to get to the space where you can take responsibility for that. It's like, wow, I actually have a choice. I am in charge of this. I'm in charge of the day. I'm in charge of what I can receive. I get to decide how much. Right? I think it just leads us to that space.
Yeah, it's it's empowerment, and it's an inside job. Life is an
Yeah.
inside job, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where we're at. So we have a few minutes left here. What do you have coming up that you want to share with people? Is there something you have coming up? How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, you don't know this. I knew you were going to ask me that
Yeah.
question. And I was like, I'm just going to wait for her to ask it. And then I'm just going to say it
Okay.
because, and thank you for the push, because this is the push that
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to put together, it's going to be called Use Your Words.
Mm-hmm.
I find that we don't use language exactly enough. I find that if we could just find the words, it just helps us to understand so much better. And so I will be putting together a series of workshops called Use Your Words.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention behind it is, how do I use my words to express exactly what I want somebody to understand? How do I check for that understanding?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use my words to record my thoughts
Mm-hmm.
so that I can later reflect back?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use my words to influence the world?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use my words to make the world a better place? So that's what Use Your Words is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the other piece inside of that is inside of hard conversations,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? How do I find those words?
Yes.
So use your words. My dad told me I was going to be in a fight at school in high school. And the girl was like, tomorrow after school, we're going to fight. And I went home and I said to my dad, "Why are you teaching me how to fight?" And he said, "I'm not teaching you how to fight. Use your words." I'm like, use my words. She's going to break my nose. So I was so angry with him. And so I'm like trying to figure out how to punch and, just so brutal at it. And I was like, I'm going to be like black eyes. It's going to be terrible. Maybe losing teeth. I'm just not prepared for that kind of
Yeah.
pain. And so we went into the courtyard the next day after school, and I'm just pooping my pants. I'm just so scared. And I just used my words, and I just said, like, you can go ahead and punch me. You can go ahead and knock me down. You can pull my hair, whatever it is you're going to do. But that's not going to change anything.
Mm.
And the end of the story is she never punched me, and we ended up being really great friends. Yeah.
That's
And she
awesome.
actually is the girl that I was telling you about that moved to Calamel.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
did she? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
So funny.
awesome.
That's a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that my dad told me was that he said, "Brenda, you don't understand. When you walk into a room and you start to talk, people listen." And I never believed that. That was a limiting belief for me. I didn't believe that that really happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just coming into that wholly, and believing that I do have some things that I can share that help people access
Mm-hmm.
things they didn't know they could access. And that's cool. So use your words.
Okay.
Coming this fall.
Okay. Perfect.
And the second one is a soul study. I did one on Limitless,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fantastic. And we did it online and live, so it was a combination. And it's difficult to do that, but it worked good. So we'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the next one I'm going to do.
Okay.
Beautiful book.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, from people pleaser to soul pleaser, and just a real soul study. So there's not much point in reading a self-help book if you're not going to help yourself.
That's
so right. I think when you're part of a group, you really can, and you have some guidance and some direction. You can go deep, and you can share your experiences. You're held accountable to what you're going to do next, and it does help you to move in the direction of your better life. So
Perfect.
So that's two big things.
Those are very big things. Congratulations on those big things.
Thank you.
So how can people find you? What is your website? What is your Facebook page?
So my Facebook page is Wellnest Coaching, and my website is wellnesscoaching.ca,
Okay.
and it's still not up and running.
Okay.
I
Okay.
probably need coaching on that.
Okay. We
It's there.
will.
It's just not up and running.
Okay. It will be.
So
It will
yes,
be.
yes.
Okay.
So find me on Facebook
Mhm.
and watch me grow.
We are
Grow with
watching.
me.
We are watching you grow, and thank you for being here. I've always wanted to have a deeper chat with you, and I feel like you have so much to offer and such a kind heart, and your words are amazing. So thank you for being here on summer solstice, and I want to thank everybody who's been watching and listening.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful experience. I enjoy your soul so much.
Yours too. Thank you. Bye, everybody.